Jarred Kelenic's making a lot of noise in Mariners camp. We'll be talking about him and a lot more in today's Mailbag Monday. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Monday, March 6th, 2023. This is Trident Gonzalez and Colby Padnote for the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description below. It is Mailbag Monday, the show where we answer your Mariners questions, and stick around until the middle of the show to find out how you and a friend or family member could see this Mariners ball club up close and personal next month or even in May. We'll be telling you more about that, about our next great Locked On Mariners giveaway in the middle of the show after we come out of our first segment. But first, Colby, let's get into these questions. Shohei to Seattle. Yes, we are already starting that campaign, as it seems pretty clear to many that Flexen is just a better starter than Marco. Wouldn't the Mariners be better off with Flexen at number 5 in the rotation? Forget about contracts. Don't we want the best team out there? Colby, what do you think?
I think let's see, for a third time. I think that.
Yeah, real quick, guys. We've recorded this episode we recorded this episode in full, and then the audio was destroyed despite it sounding fine on either one of our ends when we were listening. There was no way for us to know that was going to happen. And then we got about 8 minutes into another recording, and then it just decided to stop recording. So that's fun. So yeah, we've answered this question 3 times now. Anyway, Colby, continue.
So yeah, obviously you do want the best team out there, but it's not having, maxing out your rotation isn't the way to have the best team, especially since the difference between Marco and Flexen right now is pretty negligible. I mean, I know people love to talk about Chris Flexen like he's a number 3, number 4 starter. And he has been, slightly better than Marco the last few years, but it's not a huge difference. And when you look at it, both of these guys are going to be on the opening day roster unless one of them is traded. And we all know which one would be traded if either of them get traded. So they're both going to be on the opening day roster. That means one of them is going to be in the bullpen. Jerry's already ruled out a 6-man rotation. That's probably the right call. But if they're both going to be on the 26-man roster, then and they're both very similar. You feel very similar about them as starting pitchers. Then the tiebreaker becomes which one is better out of the bullpen. And Jerry told us himself that we feel like Chris Flexen's stuff plays better out of the bullpen. He was very candid with us. He all but named Marco the number 5 starter when we talked to him last month. And a big part of that is Chris's stuff we feel plays better in the bullpen than Marco's would. And B, Marco gives you, for the most part, if he takes the ball 30 times, then 21, 22, 23 of those, he's going to give you a quality outing. He's going to eat innings for you. He's going to keep you in the ball game. And yeah, he's going to have a couple blow-up starts. He's just not going to have his command one day, and everything's going to be in the middle of the plate, and you're going to lose that game. Chris Flexen does the same thing when he's out there as a starter. Have a couple really good starts, a lot of quality starts, and then a couple really bad starts. So if it's all the same in the Mariners' eye, and it's just a tie, then the tiebreaker has to be who plays up in the bullpen, because we're going to use a bullpen spot on one of these two guys. We don't want that spot to be a nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Are we willing to DFA Marco Gonzalez and just swallow $18 million? No. And we probably shouldn't be. Are we willing to just DFA Chris Flexen and, swallow $8 million? No, we probably shouldn't be. So they're both going to make the roster. And if they're both going to make the roster, which one makes more sense out of the bullpen? It's Chris Flexen, because the difference between them as starters in the eyes of the Mariners, negligible. We know that. We've heard that. We've been shown that. The Mariners don't see a big difference between Flexen and Marco. And if that's the case, then they should put Chris Flexen in the bullpen, because his stuff will play up better there. And that's not even taking into account the fact that Marco's the longest tenured Mariner, and he has earned the right to kind of give one last shot at getting, setting the course correct. So we'll see what happens. But one thing I'm very confident in is that Marco Gonzalez is going to be the number 5 starter when this team breaks camp.
And look, if if we're talking about, Flexen potentially being traded here as well, what's more valuable to you? Flexen in the number 5 spot and basically, because again, look, if Marco has to be relegated to the bullpen, you might as well just outright cut Marco, because there are several relievers within this organization that are going to provide more value to you out of the bullpen than Marco Gonzalez. So if he's not your number 5, there's no point of having Marco Gonzalez on your team. That's just what it is. So what's more valuable? Eating that money of Marco and having Flexen, be your number 5, or trading Flexen for whatever you can get for him. And then, going along with another rumor that's floating out there that the Mariners are scouring the market for starting pitching, adding someone that is, pretty much equal in ability to Flexen, who probably provides more club control and or minor league options, which is going to be valuable to you from a roster construction standpoint. To me, the answer is pretty clear. And so, yeah, again, Flexen, like, it's not even a question, really. If both of these guys make the team, Flexen has to be the guy that comes out of the bullpen because his stuff just plays up more. Marco, Jerry DiPoto even said it himself on this show when we had him on here, that Marco's stuff isn't going to tick up out of the bullpen, that they don't really see any value in doing that. So even the guy that's running the show here has told you outright, we don't see any value in doing that. So that's your answer right there. And so, yeah, for me, the most preferable route here is trading Flexen if you can actually get something that helps you. But that's a major question mark as well. And we're probably going to talk about that a little later on, because we have another question that kind of goes along with that. But if you can actually get a major league, bench piece to help you with the loss of Tommy La Stella and, maybe Dylan Moore's injury, even though that he's supposed to return in mid-March, then yeah, you do that. And then maybe you go out and get another starter, or maybe you just roll with Marco, because Marco, at the very least, I think is a good bridge to whatever's next, whether that's Bryce Miller or a trade or whatever happens here. I think that Marco at least serves as a quality enough bridge for the first couple of months of the season to get you to where you need to go in the end. All right, next question here comes from TJ. What's the best outfield in baseball right now, and how good does Jarred Kelenic have to be for the Mariners to be in that conversation? So, Colby, I looked around the league in preparation for answering this question, and I've also said this 3 times now as we've tried to acquire this. So but I'm saying this for everyone that hasn't heard those other recordings, which is everyone. I looked around the league to kind of just refresh my memory here on what the outfield situations around Major League Baseball are, and who's what the projected outfields look like and all that. And the thing that I saw really is that there are a lot of outfields out there, a lot of really good outfields out there that are in a pretty similar position to the Mariners, that they have, 1 or 2 MVP or at least all-star caliber outfielders, and then a giant question mark in their third outfield spot, like a Jarred Kelenic. And really, again, this question could be answered in a multitude of ways. One, if you just want to throw defense completely out of the window, then the Astros are probably the clear answer there, with Yordan Alvarez playing in left field, and Kyle Tucker and Chas McCormick, or the Padres with Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr. and maybe a bounce back from Trent Grisham. But to me, in terms of just like a complete outfield, probably the Mets, Mark Canha, Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte, but even that has some question marks there. And to answer your question here about Kelenic, how good does Kelenic have to be? I think the Mariners are pretty close to having the best outfield in baseball already, because of the things that I just listed. They have a perennial MVP candidate in Julio Rodriguez, so we think, and Teoscar Hernandez, who, if he performs at his 100th percentile, he's also in the MVP conversation. So Kelenic, to me, I think needs to be an all-star, or at least close, pretty damn close to being an all-star for them to have that best outfield in baseball. But if that actually swings in their direction, I think they have a pretty good shot at it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of interesting ones that probably fall short of best in baseball, but it's the Angels with Mike Trout and Taylor Ward certainly have those 2 guys, and then they're kind of in the same spot as the Mariners, really, right? Taylor Ward is kind of the Teoscar. Teo's got a little bit of a longer track record, and then Trout is Julio, and then it's Joe Adell in left field. Like there's Kelenic. So I think if we're really gonna give a lot of value to defense, then I think the Blue Jays are certainly up there with Springer and Kiermaier and Varsho. But there's some real questions about Varsho and Kiermaier. They're bad, particularly Varsho. I think we know by now that Kiermaier really can't hit, at a good enough level to be in this conversation. But Varsho, even last year, he was just barely above league average. So there's some offensive questions there. The Yankees, obviously, Aaron Judge, it automatically puts you in this conversation. So yeah, there's a few that are out there that are interesting, but I couldn't find an outfield that has just three, like, no question, like, exactly what you're going to get both offensively and defensively. The White Sox, Roberts is a really good center fielder, and Benintendi's a Gold Glover out in left field, but Eloy Jimenez can hit, cannot play the field. Gavin Sheets, God no, cannot play the field. So there's a huge black hole defensively. Like Gavin Sheets makes Teoscar Hernandez look like Kevin Kiermaier. So
Cardinals, like, that might be the best defensive outfield in all of baseball, but also Tyler O'Neill's coming off of a really down year. Dylan Carlson hasn't really hit his potential. Lars Newbar is fun, but
I think if O'Neill kind of bounces back to what he was in 2021, was it? Yeah, 2021. And Carlson takes a step forward, then I think I think St. Louis probably has the best outfield overall in baseball, but those are question marks. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, like another one like that could be good, at least from an offensive standpoint. Definitely not a defensive standpoint, but if Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto stay healthy and actually perform at their close to what their 100th percentile is, then sure, along with Mikey Stremski and Austin Slater, but still that's a lot of question marks.
Pretty big hole in center field too, and Slater's already hurt. So it's there are a lot of really good outfields out there, and a lot of outfields that have two like really safe pieces. Then the third guy is the question mark.
Right. All right, we got a few more questions to go over here in just a moment, but real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, and you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year, and if you're like me where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got just the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious you won't think they're good for you, which is perfect for your New Year's resolution. And what makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors. I could not say that word. That is the second time that I've read this ad, and I've messed up that same word. But they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm just not going to attempt it anymore. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get yourself a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box, cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. And if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab yourself a 13-bar box with their hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Before we get into these questions, we have an announcement to make. We are doing a giveaway. Yes, another giveaway. And this time, I'm providing the prize for our lucky winner. I'm giving away 2 main level value game tickets. You can choose any value game for the Mariners at T-Mobile Park within the months of April or May. If you win, you just let me know which game you want to go to, and I'll buy you the tickets. 2 main level tickets for you and a friend or family member or whoever you want to take to the game with you to go see the Mariners play, say, the Angels or the Brewers or the Rangers or the Athletics. Just let me know which game you want to go to. Think about that now. Actually, you know what? Let me know in the comments down below, because the way that you're going to win this, if you are going to win, is by doing exactly what we asked you to do for the Walter Ford card giveaway. You got to subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment on this video or any or all of our videos that are coming out this week. And if you leave a comment on each one of our videos, that's going to improve your chances. because we're going to pick one random video to pick a comment from, and then we're going to pick a random comment using a generator from that video, and then we will announce it next week. I don't know if it'll be Monday, Tuesday. We'll let you know about that closer to the date when we're going to announce that, but we will announce that sometime next week. So be sure to leave a comment down below if you're already subscribed, or subscribe, and then get your friends to subscribe and all that stuff to improve your chances as well. All right, let's get back into these questions here on Mailbag Monday. Cody wants to know, Colby, does Mason McCoy have a legit shot to make the opening day roster?
No.
Next question.
Next question.
But Colby, he's 7 for 13 this spring with an opponent quality of 8.3.
No. Next question. He's 28 years old. He's never really hit above AAA. He's never gotten
not
bad
28 yet. He'll be 28 the day after opening day,
which makes this his age 28 season. He's had one good year in AAA. It wasn't even an amazing year. It was just good, solid.
Yeah.
He is hitting the ball hard this winter. That's great. You need depth, right? You need depth in AAA, and that's what Mason McCoy is. If he's on your opening day roster, something has gone terribly, terribly, terribly wrong. No. Legit?
Yeah.
Forget legit shot. He has no shot. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch.
Yeah. In order for him to make it, Sam Haggerty has to be unable to make the opening day roster. Dylan Moore has to be unable to break camp with the team. Hell, even JP Crawford has to be unable to make the team at that point. And even then, I'm probably trading for someone. So
they just go sign Jose Iglesias or whoever. So
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, none. Maybe he gets an at bat at some point this year, but
sure.
No.
He gets the Brian O'Keefe treatment at the end of the year or something.
If Mason McCoy gets serious play time with the Mariners, and by serious I mean anything over like 10 plate appearances, something's gone horribly wrong, or Mason McCoy has made me look like a complete moron, and I think we know what's more likely, because this is not just a hat rack, my friend. So
the moron thing.
No.
The moron thing.
No.
All right, let's talk about Jarred Kelenic here. Jordan says, Jarred looked great against the Brewers today, and it seems like each game he's looking really good. I know it's spring training, but at what point do you allow yourself to start getting even the slightest bit excited that he's figured it out? So, Colby, obviously, yeah. Kelenic obviously had the really impressive home run against Devin Williams, got a cookie right up the middle and drove it to outer space over the batter's eye in Peoria. Very impressive home run. And doing exactly what he needed to do, with a pitch like that against one of the, better relievers in all of baseball. Yeah, I'm not going to get excited by anything that Jarred does this spring. I need to see it in actual game action in regular season games when he's actually going up against pitchers who are actually game planning for him and game planning for his weaknesses, not game planning for themselves and working on things to get back in baseball shape and work on pitches and yada, yada, yada. Again, I say it time and time again. Context is incredibly important when it comes to spring training, especially with pitcher performances. And so, with that, while it's very impressive that he hit the home run the way that he did off of someone like Williams, there's, again, that at bat may go a little bit differently if Williams is actually game planning for Kelenic in that situation. So, I'll say this. I'm intrigued by what Kelenic is doing this spring. I'm intrigued by his process, going back to that home run, working a 2-0 count against Williams, and then doing what he did with a cookie, because let's face it, like he doesn't necessarily get props for, homering off of a cookie, but this is the kind of gift that he has missed a lot on in the past, where he's either just swinging right through it or fouling it off or whatever. There have been multiple occasions of Jarred Kelenic getting his pitch, getting an absolute gift, and doing nothing with it. So for that's great. That's awesome to see. And the process in terms of just his plate approach has been a little bit different. I've noticed some differences in that. And so far, so good. But again, until I actually see him face pitchers and teams that are actually game planning for him, looking to take advantage of any weaknesses that they see in his game, it's nothing to me. It means really nothing to me at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's there's no value whatsoever in spring training numbers. It's about process, it's about approach, and it's about health. And to his credit, Kelenic's process looks pretty good right now. So is something to be excited about. The overall numbers are not. I don't care. Kelenic was really good last spring, and that didn't translate. So it just doesn't matter what the numbers look like. It's about process, and it's even hard to really gauge the process right now because, like Ty said, they're not game planning for Kelenic. They're not looking for weaknesses. They're focused on what they're trying to do and what they're trying to execute. So it's tough. It's kind of a tough spot right now with Kelenic to drastically change what I view Jarred Kelenic as right now would be foolish. So if you guys want to get excited about Jarred Kelenic, I mean, go for it. I'm not going to stop you, but for us, or for me in particular, where I'm trying to maintain some kind of some kind of, I don't even, professional, I don't know what you call
objectivity.
It. Like, I guess, for you guys, so that I can give you my honest opinion. I'm not changing my mind on Kelenic being anything, more than what I've seen in the 600 plate appearances he's had at the big league level.
I totally get it. I totally understand anyone getting excited about this because he's been one of the, inarguably one of the best hitters in spring training thus far across both the Cactus and Grapefruit leagues. I think he's leading all spring training teams, or all spring training players in home runs right now. And that's great and all. But again, the other thing too is like home run power and all that stuff has never been a question mark for Jarred. We know that he can hit bombs. He can absolutely hit nukes. That's not a surprise to me. It's just, having a solid approach at the plate, being able to work counts, and being able to take advantage of those pitches like the one that he got from Devin Williams. That's going to be important, and especially important in the regular season once he's actually going up against guys that, flat out just want to kill him, on the field, So.
Right. I'd say this about Kelenic. I'm comfortable being one of the last guys in the Mariners analysis community to decide that Jarred Kelenic has arrived as like a full-fledged big leaguer. So I'm not racing to be first, to be like, yep, this is why this is going to work. Right. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to wait and I'm going to see it. And for me, process is great and it's what it's all about, but process has to eventually lead to results. And we'll see what kind of process Kelenic has when he goes through an 0 for 17 with 8 strikeouts. That's going to happen at some point, even if Kelenic is good this year. That's going to happen at some point. How does he handle that? How does he bounce back? Does he throw everything overboard? Does he make small changes? Does he just kind of go with the flow? I don't know. There's a lot of things that go into being a successful big leaguer that we're never going to see in the 50 plate appearances he's going to get down in spring training.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm really interested to see this year is that if he does, if he rides this momentum into the regular season and starts out hot, how does he respond once he does get into a slump? Because that's going to happen. I mean, Julio's going to enter a slump at some point this season. That's just no player is exempt from that, really. So how does Jarred respond once adversity comes back around for him? Right, because he hasn't responded great in the past. So from the mental side of things too, like it's not just what he's doing mechanically that I'm very intrigued by. It's also the mental side, because is he going to be able to endure? That's really the big question for me. And so is he going to, let that snowball again into, maybe he has a good first month, but then the rest of the year looks bad, or is he going to be able to get back on the horse after a couple of weeks of struggling? That's going to be really, really key for him. So, yeah. But until we see that in the regular season, it's just, I would love to be impatient and, just overreact here and get excited about it. And I'm fine with doing that a little bit here. But for me personally, I can't allow myself to jump that far into the water here until I actually see it, in full context of the regular season. All right, we got a few more questions here to answer in just a moment, but real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen here on Mailbag Monday. We got 4 questions left here on Mailbag Monday. Let's get into them. Starting with Cal Sal, who asks, what do they do with Harry Ford if he looks ready for the show in the next year or two? Unless Cal seems to be to take a step back, where does he fit? Trade piece possibly? So that's the beautiful thing about Harry Ford here, Cal. He's so athletic that he can really play anywhere. It doesn't matter what Cal Raleigh is doing, really. If you think that Harry Ford is ready to go, he could play second, he could play third, he could play center field, he could play in a corner outfield spot, he could DH. He can really do it all. He is truly a super utility. At least that's what his ceiling is right now. And so Cal Raleigh, whatever he does, to me, is irrelevant within the conversation of Harry Ford. I mean, it's relevant to maybe the possibility of him catching in the future. But overall, in terms of just the timeline of Harry Ford and how he fits into the roster and all this, that doesn't really matter to me, what Cal Raleigh is doing.
Yeah. What's never going to be the case is that the Mariners are going to either trade Harry Ford or Cal Raleigh because they feel like they have to make room for the other one. Not going to happen. Both of these guys can coexist on this roster. And by the way, if Harry Ford does get to the big leagues in the next year or two, it's not going to be as a catcher. They will have moved him off at that point, and he's probably playing third, which makes a lot of sense considering that, Eugenio Suarez, his contract ends after next season. And the Mariners right now do not have a third baseman ready to go in that time period. You never know. They could acquire somebody could pop. Maybe they draft somebody this year, but right now they do not have that answer for Gino after his contract ends. So, I think, if Cal continues to hit like he has and he continues to show he's this type of player, you just move Harry Ford to third, or you move him to left field, or, maybe he can play second or center if he keeps his athleticism. But the Mariners for now, they're going to keep Ford at catcher, but that doesn't mean that's the long-term plan. And if the bat continues to progress to the point in your hypothetical where he's up in the big leagues by the end of 2024 or 2025, it's probably going to be because they moved him off of that position so that they can get him to the big leagues faster.
Right. All right, next question here comes from C. What do you think the chances are the Mariners keep Flexen and trade Marco as opposed to trading Flexen and keeping Marco? If they do trade Flexen, what do you think would be a good trade? So, again, this goes back to the whole discussion about, who's more valuable out of the bullpen. And that's just straight up Chris Flexen. Again, Jerry DiPoto told you that himself on this show a few weeks back. So the likelihood, 0, really, for trading Marco over trading Flexen, because, there's money involved here. He's owed roughly $6 million this year and then $12 million next year. That's guaranteed. He does have a club option after next season. So that's not guaranteed. I think there's a buyout, if I'm not mistaken. I would assume probably in the $1 million range. So whoever's acquiring him is potentially on the hook for about $19 million. Obviously, the Mariners would likely have to chip in some money on that front to make that happen. But they're probably not going to get anything that's necessarily worth doing that for. So, I mean, again, you would rather do that than just outright cut Marco. I mean, if there's just, if the answer is that Marco's just not going to be in your rotation, then, I would rather trade him than just cut him and just eat that money for absolutely nothing. I'd rather get at least something for him. And of course, there was a reported 3-team deal that was apparently being hammered out between the Phillies and the Yankees and the Mariners that would have sent Joey Gallo to Seattle and then Marco to Philly. And obviously that fell through. Who knows why? Maybe that was performance-based. Maybe that was money-based. Maybe both, whatever. But then again, I I don't have any delusions of the Mariners getting anything useful for Marco Gonzalez. So I think it's just better for them to roll with him as their number 5 for now. Again, I think he's a pretty good bridge to whatever, is next in the rotation.
By the way, Bryce Miller went 3 innings today, struck out 4, gave up 2 hits. So,
and that's probably and speaking of whatever's next in the rotation, that's probably it.
That's probably it. Sat 97, 98 today. So yeah. I agree. If Flexen gets traded again, I continue to be on the side that you're not going to get what people think. There are some people who just make a generic, like, go trade him for a top 10 prospect. You're not getting anybody's top 10 prospect for Chris Flexen. There are guys who do what he does in every organization, and they make less than $8 million like Flexen does. So to me, you're either swapping him for somebody else who's, maybe the offensive equivalent of Chris Flexen, where it's, hey, we have, 7 outfielders and this guy's making $9 million and we want to go with a younger guy. Let's trade him for Chris Flexen. Like, I think that's kind of what you're looking at, or possibly a platoon bat, maybe, if you're lucky. I don't think you're going to get a ton for Chris Flexen. I at least, at the time the trade is made, I don't think you're going to get a ton for him. But again, the Mariners, sometimes they make these trades where they trade, veterans for minor leaguers who we've never heard of, or they trade minor leaguers or fringe major leaguers for, A-ball arms. And sometimes they turn out to be Jake Shiner and you don't really get a lot for them. Sometimes they end up being Perlander Baroa, and we're all excited about that trade. So it just because we don't know who the guy is if they make a trade, doesn't mean it's not a good trade. Doesn't mean it doesn't make sense. Doesn't mean the process is unsound. It's just one of those things you have to wait and see, like trading Taylor Williams for Matt Brash. So I just don't think it's going to be a huge name that people are going to be really pumped for. And I think if Flexen is traded before opening day, I think a lot of Mariner fans are going to say that's a terrible trade when they make it, but we'll see.
Yeah. And I think, at its best, what you could get for Flexen is something that helps you off of your bench right now. Again, that helps kind of fill out that hole that maybe Tommy La Stella has left open here, but that's about it. And even if you get someone like that, it's probably someone that hasn't really found success at the major league level. Just a shot that you're really taking, another Cooper Hummel type, something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here comes from Zane. A few months back, you guys talked about uniform changes. Is it just no more road gray tops, or is there something more? Will they bring back the black tops with the silver piping anytime soon? Those were fire. So, that's it, along with a potential City Connect jersey, which we keep on seeing leaks about. We've seen socks, stance socks, and then a T-shirt that's leaked recently for a potential Mariners City Connect uniform. But that's about it. So Major League Baseball implemented a rule that teams can only have 4 primary uniforms that they can wear, like, in their regular rotation. There's obviously exceptions for special, nights or series or whatever. Like, the Mariners are going to wear their Steelheads jerseys. And then, obviously they'll have the City Connects if they get those, but that's it. But they chose to axe their road grays in favor of the navies. They're going to be wearing the navies as their primary road uniforms. Maybe we'll see the Northwest grays or Northwest greens rather on the road more than we typically do. But yeah, that's about it. So it's the home whites, home creams for Sunday, and then the navy and the Northwest green. Those are their 4. And then that wasn't what we expected. That wasn't what we were talking about when we said that we had heard that there were going to be uniform changes. I was told at the wild card game that there was going to be a complete rebrand. But I've also, Colby and I have heard things like that for the last couple of years. And so, maybe that's bad information simply, or things have gotten delayed. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter, because it's not just what we've heard. There has been talk about this all over, really, about the Mariners and, going to rebrand within the last couple of years. And I expected it before 2021, frankly. I expected it before this past season, and I expected it before this season as well, and it hasn't happened. But when you see people like Kevin Martinez teasing it, asking like, what would you guys like to see and all this stuff, a few months ago, it just seems like it's happening. But I feel like they ultimately missed their window here for a rebrand, because the changing of the guard for the Mariners has already happened. Julio's here. The drought has already been ended. We're already in the new era of Mariners baseball with these same uniforms, and it just felt like it would that it was just the perfect time, knowing how everything was going to happen, especially once we got out of 2021 and you could start to see it happening, that this would have been the perfect time to execute that, and it didn't happen. So I don't know if they're ever going to rebrand. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because, again, I've been told these things for the last couple of years, and I've said, yeah, I expect a rebrand, and then it just didn't happen. So I don't know anymore. No clue. All right. Last question here for the day. It comes from Faithful Mutiny. How often do you think we will see Cal Raleigh DH when Tom Murphy starts? Will the Mariners want to take his bat out of the lineup to provide more true off days? Colby, what do you think?
I think the goal should be to get Raleigh off his feet a little bit more. He caught a lot last year, particularly towards the end of the year. And we know now that he did that with, half a thumb, more or less. So I do think that there is value to getting him true off days. And obviously you feel better about doing that this year, assuming Tom Murphy's healthy, than you did last year when it was, Luis Torrens, who never really found his footing at the plate, and Brian O'Keefe, as primary backup. So you feel better about it. So I do think there's value to just limiting him, getting him off the field on days, minus maybe a pinch hitting appearance or something like that. But I don't think we're going to see it as often as people are hoping for. I think a lot of people are like, Murphy's just make Murphy the DH. And I don't think we're going to see that. Scott's never really liked to do it when he's carried 2 catchers before. He's done it when he's carried 3, but not when he's carried 2. So my guess is we'll probably see Cal get 90 to 100 starts behind the plate, and then maybe 10 to 15 DH days. Whereas I think we're probably going to see, 50, 60 starts from Tom Murphy. And then maybe Murphy gets 15 to 20 DH days. And that's kind of how they get their at bat. So I do think we'll see them in the lineup together a few times, but I don't think it's going to be to the extent that a lot of Mariner fans are hoping, because it doesn't make a lot of sense, because Murphy's also coming off of a serious injury.
Right. And as unrelated as this may seem at face value, I think Jarred Kelenic kind of plays a role in this as well, if he's a viable option, particularly against lefties, because if not, AJ Pollock is probably playing left field. And then that opens the DH for, maybe it's Sam Haggerty plays in the outfield and Teo is the DH, but there's also, again, and Tom Murphy might be the next best option after Pollock or Cal, whoever's not catching that day to DH. Maybe Dylan Moore, but there's also the possibility that Moore is going to platoon with Colton Wong, so he might already be playing second in that scenario. So yeah, so I think that also kind of plays a role here. But at the end of the day, just get a good hitter in DH. Don't let that be a black hole in your lineup. That's it. That's all I ask, really. All right. Well, if you're hearing this, the episode went through. It's actually not all messed up, so we're gonna cross our fingers here. It sounds fine on our end. But hopefully it actually, the final product actually sounds good. Again, a reminder, we're doing a giveaway. We're giving away 2 main level value game tickets to any Mariners value game within the month of April or May. That's your choice if you win. All you have to do is subscribe to the show on YouTube and leave a comment on this video or any of our other videos this week, and we will pick a winner next week. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's CANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Mariners. That's one word, Locked On Mariners. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen. Now, for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.